Avery, and let's hear in the back. My name is Antonio Reyes. Welcome to Review Rogues. Avery, what's going on, man? We got a good one in hand today.
It really was, man. I was pleasantly surprised. I know a lot of people, like, they heard a lot of the hoopla, like, oh my gosh, it's the best film of the year.
Ooh.
And I am really glad that aggressively, for right now at least, before Star Wars and everything else comes out,
right?
It probably is.
Contending. It is very contending.
It probably is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, if you don't know, Joker is set in a universe that is loosely based on the DC Comics version of the character, a gentleman by the name of Arthur Fleck, who does indeed become the title character Joker, with a couple of things that happen along the way that bring him along his journey. And it's pretty fascinating the way they do this without having to add in some of the more spectacular elements of the comic, but still pulled us in without having to use so many explosions or anything like that. It's just really character based, and I really dug that.
Yeah, it was very, like you mentioned, character based. We get to see exactly what makes up the Joker and why it's the Joker, or why this person becomes the Joker. In my opinion, you didn't need to have all the hoopla around him because it was so intense, just him by himself. It made you feel all sorts of type of way. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about just the movie in general. Give me a little brief description of it.
All right. Well, we're talking about, like we mentioned before, Arthur Fleck, who does suffer from mental illness that, instead of it being caused by, if you haven't read the comics, it's been around for over 50 years, has been caused by a gentleman being chased by Batman, falling into a vat of chemicals and ace chemicals and blah, the Joker. This one is literally, he has a mental illness that makes it so that his laugh is really more of a tick. Yep. He laughs no matter what he feels. He takes medication. He's also a social outcast. Messed up things happen to him. And when I watched the movie, and I'll say for more than 70% of the movie, it definitely felt like a PSA for mental illness.
Mental awareness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because obviously that's a big hot button issue. It's like, how do we treat it? Are we treating it? Even in the movie, it even discusses
has medication and stuff like that. How you're not getting it, and they're gonna cut
because
him off.
of the government, and also like just in general how today's society
just
is basically looking at them and also causing people to like.
Absolutely, no, definitely. I think that Joaquin Phoenix did an outstanding job at this. Let's just talk a little bit about him and how I feel like he was the perfect fit for this character.
Absolutely.
Joaquin Phoenix has just taken. Listen, he's always been a good actor, but I think this was just like I can't remember last time that I saw him as the main guy, not as a bad guy. Yes, he's a bad guy in this movie, but he's the protagonist in this movie, and it's all about him. He makes you feel all types of ways from each range of motion, man. It was funny at some points, but it was like very uncomfortable in a lot of points.
I was literally thinking that word in my head just now. I'm like, that's the one word that really summed up almost every single aspect of it. Everything was uncomfortable.
Yes.
All his interactions with people were extremely uncomfortable.
Yes.
And it wasn't just like us. People didn't know how to respond to him, how they were around him. It was really, really good in that aspect, because that's how people with mental illnesses feel.
It's so good. It's because it reminded me of little situations too, especially his laughter. It's if you see when he's laughing, he looks like he's like enjoying it, but then there's certain points in the laughter where he's like, looks like he's crying about it, and he's kind of asking for help. And and just like real life, you just don't know how everybody's ticking or everybody is, and sometimes people get offended at certain things some people do, and it really is a problem that the person has. And I felt like that was such a great part. It was a great demonstration by Joaquin Phoenix. Man, I would not be surprised if he's getting like, some
Oscar
type of
nods.
Yes, for this performance, man.
If there's any comic book, because this
right,
it is technically a comic book movie because it's based off of the universe, but it wasn't like a stereotypical one.
Right.
If there's anyone that would get into there, it's most likely this one. I would definitely agree with that.
Let's talk a little bit about the hot topic of Joaquin Phoenix and Heath Ledger. Compare to me the two. Tell me a little bit about, kind of like, can they even be compared, in your opinion?
Well, yes and no, right?
Okay.
Yes, because technically, this world is almost adjacent to the world that Christopher Nolan built, which was like a non-superhuman-based world of Batman, right? Yes, good. Like no metahumans in there. But still, however, it's hard to completely compare because this Joker didn't need Batman to exist.
Right.
It's actually the opposite.
He creates
his existence
Batman.
actually creates Batman.
Right.
Which I get. Some people that I was reading, they had a problem with the fact that he's so much older.
Yeah.
He's so much older than...
I was one of those people. We were one of those people, actually. Yeah, we were like, man, we wish he was a little bit younger because that way it would make sense why Batman, as he grows up, he's still fighting him.
I think what they're trying to say is he inspires another generation of Jokers because that is really what's happening. Because it doesn't have to be Arthur.
Yeah.
It could literally be someone else that comes after there, and in the end of the day, the Joker can still mean something.
Worse than Arthur as the Joker, like because the Joker is like.
Well, technically,
no.
Technically, Heath Ledger's Joker. If you wanted to, let's say you wanted to just throw it out there, Heath Ledger's Joker could actually be inserted in here if you wanted to.
Yes,
because it's like
he could be a creation of
version.
this. Yes.
He's like, well, that was like my hero. Because in this one, he's
Yes.
not trying to be a hero,
And he's not
trying to be
an
himself.
anarchist neither.
He's just
not,
trying to be himself.
No, you're absolutely right. He said it himself. He's not about a political movement. He's not about anything. It's just him, you know. And that was awesome. I think that's another thing too, where it really is a lot of the things now that I'm thinking about it. Touch with today. It made sense of today.
Absolutely.
Where everything is like, you know, oh, what are you standing for? And this guy's saying, you know, I'm not standing for anything. I'm just being me. You know what I'm saying?
They even touch on cancel culture because she was like, do you think that jokes like that are funny? Because right now it touches on the thing about comedians where they allowed to joke about.
Yes.
And even Todd Phillips, the director, he did say when he made this film that he stepped away from comedy because of that type of culture, because he made like Hangover, and think about it, Hangover couldn't be made today.
Yeah,
Oh,
no.
So, and that's why he put little like dark humor in this, like when a certain character gets killed and another character is too short to reach the door.
Yeah.
Like that was like dark humor,
Yes.
like right there because they're standing there next to a body.
Right,
but
that was great.
It's like making things offensive, but it's like it's supposed to be offensive.
Yes.
But then a person goes like, "But you can't talk about that." And you already know, we talked about this before. There's gonna be a lot of conversations surrounding like what is this film allowed to do and what are they allowed to do.
No, absolutely. And I think one thing that I want to just point out between the Heath and the Joaquin stuff is that, like you mentioned, it's one is created because of Batman, the other one is it creates kind of the environment of Batman, but also the one thing I like about Joaquin's Joker is that it gives you a really good idea of why was Gotham the way it is. I think as me growing up and watching the cartoons and watching just Batman, I'm just like, man, why is Gotham this bad? This violent?
There's no middle class there.
There's no middle class.
There's just people,
it's just the rich and the poor.
Which is similar to right now. Like
which
the
is
middle
happening.
Class
It's thinning out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That is such a great point. I think this movie hit so many just realistic things that could possibly, maybe not to that dramatic extent, but could really happen in everyday life.
And even just to briefly, before we even touch on like just Gotham as a whole, and maybe we go right to that because that's part of it. Even talking about the Waynes, Thomas Wayne in the comics wasn't perfect, but he was kind of a douche in this. Like he was a douche. Like,
but we were thinking this, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. Maybe that's just the Thomas Wayne that we see in the cartoons and the comics. It's Batman's point of view of his dad.
Because it's his dad.
Yeah.
Because it's his dad. Where meanwhile, this is the Joker's point of view, and maybe the poor people's point of view of Thomas Wayne, who is really just a bad person.
Well, he was still kind of a D though. Even when Arthur came to him, when he told him like your mom was crazy, the way he handled it, he didn't have to handle it
that way at all. He was a jerk about it.
And also, just tapping back into that, now that you guys are saying that and that we had that conversation yesterday, it's funny because the Gotham and like the the visualization when we're watching a real Batman movie, it's very technological, very high class. You see him going to parties and things like that. We're literally seeing
didn't
the
see that
Joker
platform,
in Washington Heights,
Yeah.
taking the
Hybrids.
subway,
Yeah.
and it's like the complete opposite. So if you
Right.
think about it, it's definitely just everything from even the color
That's
palette,
so
which
true.
is something I'm gonna put on the Instagram so you guys can check it out. It's very like gritty and like lower class. Just
Yes.
everything shows you like the
Everything
complete
felt poor.
opposite.
Yeah.
So it's a
Poverty is
high
very intensified.
contrast of like the view of Batman versus the view of like the lower class.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right, that's pretty good. That's good stuff, man. And
I like the train system too. Like New York was heavily involved. It's always hinted in the comics like Gotham's either New York or New Jersey.
Yes.
But they really like cemented. No, this is 80s New York
definitely,
right
yes,
now.
yes.
I liked it.
The transition. One thing. Let's go back real quick about the Joker itself in this movie.
Got it.
And just the transition that this guy took, where we saw different evolutions of and different things that led him to become the Joker. Just tell me exactly like what was one thing in this movie that was like, man, yeah, this is really good to you. Like what was the one thing that was like, man, yeah, this movie is it. If it was, did you know?
So, the whole point that half of the stuff in the movie never really happened.
Oh,
That was huge.
Yes,
That's huge to
Yes.
me because obviously we're talking about mental illness here,
And we'll get to that in a second.
and people who are delusional, right? Imagine events completely different,
Right.
And the whole movie was about
So he got schizophrenia.
exactly point of view, like his mother's point of view, like all the letters she was waiting for, like, and it set us up as an audience, like, dang, well, this lady just taken advantage of,
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day,
Right.
she's sick, and him being raised by a sick person,
Yes.
made him believe certain things about himself,
Right.
And the best part of himself was when he accepted how sick he actually was.
Right.
Because when he stopped taking the pills, he was like, I feel so much better.
Yeah.
Which is actually something that a lot of people who are sick say all the time.
In real life, right?
They go
the
like,
sick,
I'm tired of this.
the pills make you sicker or keep you in that state of a zombie or something like that. And he was just that. He was just a zombie,
Just going
through
through
the
life.
motions of life and just letting life kick him.
But
You know,
when he-
literally and figuratively.
What he imagined, literally, like, because I knew something was wrong.
Right.
When he just, like,
Out of the nowhere, started going out with maybe that
yes,
girl.
with that girl. I'm like,
yes,
this is a weird transition. And
Yes.
then all of a sudden, like, he's in her apartment and
Yes.
she's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, thank you. I'm like, thank you for making that look, because they planted the seed.
That's so good because something that I pointed out was that when he was doing the stand-up comedy and she was sitting there, I told Antonio when they hit the streets, awkward music just played, and I'm like, that's not right.
normal.
That's not
doesn't
normal.
fit
It
there.
doesn't fit there.
And that's what it was.
And that's what it
That
was.
was intended to not fit there.
Exactly, because once that hit, she's in the apartment, she's like, you notice that they never really interacted. You're like, oh, so that's why that super awkward music just cued, because everything that happened moving forward was totally in his imagination.
Let's kind of get a grades. Let's go ahead, everybody. Give me what your thoughts and opinions is. Krishan, I'll let you go first. Like it, love it. Give me a 1 through 10, and you know.
What I'll say, just to be fair, I won't give it a 1 through 10.
Right.
Because I feel like that's subjective.
Okay.
However, I will say this is definitely worth watching.
Yes.
Definitely worth going to the theater for.
Yes.
And I'll say go to the theater with an open mind. Do not go there expecting what's happening in the rest of the DCU. It will ruin it for you. Just go in there and try to figure out what they're trying to tell you. Enjoy the movie, and that's it. But I personally, I love the movie.
I'll let you go ahead, Atier. Go ahead and
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. I think it was probably one of the top movies this year. The first 45 minutes of the movie, I was probably stuck in like, why am I even watching this? Just because I didn't know how to feel, and it was very disturbing. But then once you see the finale, it's so mind-blowing. Everything makes sense. You understand why every single director's decision was made. So after you walk out and you really think about it, you're like, wow, this is literally one of the best movies that I've watched in a very long time.
Wow. I'll be the one giving it a grade. I'll give it a grade. I'll give it an 8. And I'll tell you this much. It was I'll give it an 8.5 as a matter of fact. because what I think was that movie made me have every single emotion that I could possibly have while watching a movie. It made me sad, it made me happy, it made me angry, all these different things in just a set of what, 2.5 hours I think as a movie is. The best scene for me was at the very end when he is kind of like dancing with the people and celebrating and stuff like that. And I was like, man, I didn't know what to feel there. I'm like, am I supposed to be happy for him? Or am I just like, man, this guy is just created, like, he just opened Pandora's box. Yeah. So I would say, just like Sean said, it's a movie that it's a must see. Definitely, I think everybody's gonna see it. And it's speechless. I'm just speechless about it, guys. And that's pretty much it. What's next? We're gonna have a video on what's gonna be next for DC. Is DC gonna build off of this, or this was just a one-time thing? Thank you so much, guys, for watching Review Rogues. For Avery, let's hear. This was awesome.